welcome to this month's Chief Exec Shout-Out. It feels to me as if the year's going so quickly, but we're going to try and make sure that we do Chief Exec Shout-Outs on a regular basis. As always, I just want to start off by saying a huge thank you to everyone. I know that the Trust continues to be under a lot of pressure. If it's not about clearing waiting lists, it's about trying to support the urgent and emergency care pathways, and we've been doing all of that with quite a lot of national scrutiny, but also throughout with industrial action. And I know everyone has gone above and beyond to support each other and to keep our patients safe. So I just really wanted to start off by thanking you all very much for everything that you've been doing. As part of the work, we've been trying to secure some additional capital and investment into the hospital, and at last count we've recently topped about £300 million worth of investments, and many of the schemes are things that you've heard about before, like the electronic patient record, the development of orthopaedics, a new Royal Eye Infirmary, and the list goes on. And we're hoping that we can start the enabling works around an urgent treatment centre quite soon. We're just in the final throes of those negotiations, and that will be adjacent to the new fracture clinic. So a huge amount going on, and there's a moment in time where we really need to keep pushing. We'll get through winter, and then a lot of our new facilities will come on board. I've come down to Erme Ward for this Chief Exec Shout-Out, just following a request from one of our consultants who was sharing with me how much this team have gone above and beyond with what are quite complex patients, not just in terms of their own needs, but a lot of the needs, ongoing needs they have around support, ongoing care. And I have to say it's been absolutely brilliant. So as part of this month's Chief Exec Shout-Out, I'm on Erme Ward, which is a ward that deals with some really, really complex patients, and I'm delighted I've been joined by the team today. Now, one of the reasons why I'm down here, and I've picked this ward in particular, is that one of the consultants stopped me in the corridor to not only sing the praises of this team, but just to explain to me how providing really good patient-centred care to the complex needs of the patients here, that the team have gone above and beyond. So I'm really, really delighted to just give the team a little token of thank you. In the staff room, there's a pile of chocolate biscuits as well. It's just a small gesture to really acknowledge the great work that this team has done and continues to do on Erme Ward. Now, I've had about an hour walking around the ward, meeting all of the staff, meeting some of the relatives and the patients. And you know, when you go onto a ward, it's just got a fantastic feel and it feels great. And what's really, really jumped out at me is how much of a #OneBigTeam it is here. And this is down to all of these fantastic people and their colleagues. So Rachel, you're the ward manager. I'm going to start off with you if I can. So just tell me a little bit about what the ward does and what types of patients you've got.
So we're the South West Neurosurgical Centre. We take trauma patients with head injuries, spinal injuries. We also have neuro-oncology on the ward, a variety of different patients needing different needs, really.
So what is particular about those types of patients? I should imagine that they're quite complex.
So we have a lot of patients with head injuries. They can be really challenging, especially as they are waking up from their injury. They're completely unaware of what they're doing a lot of the time. This can be quite scary for other patients that are around them. And as a team, we make sure that we're there for the patient, their families, as well as the other patients, and reassuring that, you know, this is a stage and we'll be there to support them through it.
Yeah, and what really struck me just walking around is the multidisciplinary nature of the team, and we couldn't fit everybody into the room, but clearly there's the clinical staff, but also, you know, the housekeepers, the people who are supporting patients' reception, all of that really, really important part of the team. But just tell me a little bit about the OT and physio input and why that's so important for this patient group.
So in terms of therapies, we've got physiotherapists and occupational therapists based on the ward. We've got dietitians and also speech and language therapists as well, who play a major role in the rehab process. In terms of our role on the ward is, because of the kind of patient group, it is a lot rehab heavy. And as stated before, we do have really challenging patients, and especially that cognitive side of things. So looking at their higher function and what they normally do and be able to do, but post-injury things have really changed. So that can have lots of challenges. So we're really, really lucky to have such a good team and be part of that rehab process.
And what was nice on the ward is that you've got a gym as well. So that is obviously essential for your types of patients.
Yeah, it just gives us a bit of space to do some rehab with the patients, and then also cognitive assessments as well, so a bit of quiet space as well. So that's a really good feature of the ward.
Yeah, and it's nice to see that the ward's had a bit of refurbishment, so it looks nicer as an environment, and I know there's more to come. Now, I was particularly struck when we were talking that you're hoping to go off and do your nurse training.
I am, yes.
So you're a nursing associate at the moment. So tell me a little bit about your journey and why you now want to move on to train.
Okay, so I was really lucky to go through the apprenticeship for my NA for the nursing associate role, and that's a really great thing that they do here in the hospital. I'm really hoping to be able to go through the apprenticeship scheme again for my top up, but I have got a place at university, self-funded. Should I not be successful in the apprenticeship programme, but hopefully I will. So yeah. So.
That's fantastic, and that's lovely to just hear people's stories of progress. So, and you're a nurse on the ward, so you could be a nurse anywhere. What is it about this client group and this team that you really like?
Well, I've actually worked in neurosurgery for 9 years now, and I've worked in this trust for the last 10 months, but I just love it. The challenges, every day is different. We meet all different types of patients from all different types of walk of life. I think this ward particularly, the team is amazing. We have such a good, strong communication between us all. Like you say, there's a multidisciplinary team from the OTs to even the ward clerks and the domestics. We all have such a good communication, and that's what I enjoy the most about working on here.
So Jordan, if I was to ask you to describe what's the magic that goes on here around such great teamwork, what would it be?
It's difficult to explain with few words, but I think it's like Megan said, there is something about this team that it makes it really, really nice working here. We do lots of celebrations. We celebrate diversity and inclusion on the ward. We work really hard to make sure that everyone is welcomed and supported from day one, and being more flexible in the way we approach people, looking at what their needs are, their communication needs, the way they work, what works for them and for the team as well, and for the patients. And it's just you come and it's lovely coming to work.
Yeah, and even though it is so challenging sometimes in some situations, when you look around, everyone is still so positive. Everyone is smiling, and if you are in a situation where you do need that little bit extra support, there's so many people who I could just walk into Rachel and Jordan and the support is there. So I think that's really important to have.
I'd definitely say that as well. My preceptorship here was really well supported. Yeah, so it really was and it's a challenging ward. I chose here for my preceptorship because I knew it would bring the challenges that I needed to face, and and it's a lovely ward to work on, and everyone's been really supportive. I'm not just saying that, it's really true.
Yeah. I mean, it just sounds lovely, and I've been at the Trust a long time, and teams go through ups and downs, and so it's so lovely to just see how fantastic the ward is. how positive everyone is, and you know how you clearly really support each other. So that has been absolutely fantastic. I have to say this has been probably the highlight of my day, just being able to be out and about. It's absolutely lovely and so inspiring for everything that you do. So I think it just leaves me to say a huge thank you, and a particular well done and thank you for everything that you've been doing. So nationally, we've been celebrating estates and facilities with a special day, and I have to say Derriford was completely buzzing with so many different activities going on around cakes, looking around and supporting our staff for a job that I think, and roles that are really fundamental. We've got a massive footprint here, and all of it, not just at the Derriford Hospital of course, but on different sites as well, and all of this needs supporting. We need to provide catering, real very challenging and busy, but a great celebration, and we've got a great team, and I'm really pleased to be joined by Martin Armstrong, who heads up the services, and he's going to tell us a little bit about just the scope, the range of services, and what some of the challenges are. So Martin, welcome. Tell me a little bit about estates and facilities. What does it involve, and what are your biggest challenges?
Okay, thank you, Anne, and welcome to our Site Services Information Hub. This is where our hotel services teams are based, and it's a really good facility and great for doing something like this. As you can see.
And it's lovely, isn't it?
Yeah,
And
no,
just
I love
been
it.
refurbished, which is fantastic.
Yeah, it's really good. So Estates and Facilities Day, that's a national event by the NHS, and it celebrates facilities and estate services. I often think that estates and facilities are the unsung heroes to a certain degree in large organisations like this. You know, people often don't worry about things like the cleaning and the catering and you know, the maintenance of our buildings. It just kind of happens. So it's really good that we have a day which celebrates these unsung heroes within our organisation. Just to give you a little bit more information really, so Estates and Facilities sits under the Directorate of Site Services, so and within Site Services we have around 900 WTE. Now that's a colossal staff number, but that includes all of the planning teams as well, and estates and facilities. And in real terms that's over 1,000 staff, because a number of our staff are part-time. Typically in hotel services there is an awful lot of part-time staff. So that's the size of our service. I'm responsible for facilities alone, and facilities for me is the operational arm of site services. We make sure that the hospital functions on a daily basis. Just to give you some numbers really, so the switchboard team and the help desk, they receive over 1 million calls a year.
Wow.
In support of running this hospital, so it is a huge number.
Phenomenal.
The patient notes team, there's 140,000 boxes. Now, it's not just individual notes, but boxes of notes are transported off this site and over to Bush Park. So again, a colossal number. Our portering teams, they receive around 40,000 patient move requests every single year, and we do that through our Symbiotics patient task management system, which is really helpful. It keeps us track on what's going on. So there are really big numbers there in terms of the activities we do. Clearly some of the challenges is to make sure all that happens every single day. But I have a really good team, so I've become so fortunate. Whilst there are challenges, we're able to meet those challenges absolutely every single day. I've talked about portering and the estates team, and I've talked about other services we do, but there are many more services which make up facilities. So I'd say that facility services with myself and my team absolutely make sure this hospital functions absolutely every single day.
That is absolutely incredible, and I've worked here for a long time, but just hearing those numbers again makes the facilities very much they really do facilitate patient care, don't they? Absolutely. So without all of that, the linen, patient porters, we wouldn't get patients to their operations, we wouldn't be able to care for them on wards. Absolutely phenomenal, and I think they are unsung heroes, and I know when I'm out and about the teams are always super friendly, very helpful with our guests and visitors, and do a really tremendous job. So that's fantastic, absolutely incredible.
One of the things we did on the actual day itself, the Estates and Facilities Day, is put a little page on each table. We had a couple of tables, and we asked for comments from people that attended the table. You know, they get a little pen and a notepad or something. But we asked them to make a comment, and the comments were overwhelmingly hugely supportive. That's not just from the staff, but it's the visitors and patients that also went past the desk and also put some comments down as well. So I think it was a really worthwhile day, and the desks were also manned by different members of the estates and facilities teams. So they were, you know, they got out there and started talking to people as well, which I thought was absolutely great, and really shouting about the services we do.
Yeah, that's tremendous, and I'm sure the feedback that you gathered on the day has been shared, and a real celebration of the fantastic contribution estates and facilities make. And we will do a little bit of coverage of the new facilities that we've got here, which, you know, is very much at the heart of the hospital, but really beautiful office space and support, which is the very least that they deserve, because we value them for the work that they do. It's really, really important. So we had the National Estates and Facilities Day, and we then, not very long after, had NHS 75. I can't believe NHS is 75 already. And I know you've worked in service for a long time. So what was your highlight of the day? What are your memories of that day?
So, interesting. So I was actually on holiday on that day, Anne. So, but you know, notwithstanding that, I've had 16 years in the NHS. So 10 of those was at the RD&E, and 6 years have been here at UHP. I think if I reflect on what's happened over the years, so when I first started, we were hugely paper-based, labour-intensive. We weren't very good at technology, and so I think over the years those things have certainly started to shift and improve, particularly in facility services. I said, you know, and I think at the core of what I've seen in terms of, you know, my career in the NHS, at the core nothing much has changed. I would like to say, strangely, you know, having said what I've just said, but nothing much for me has really changed. Yes, we always get targets around finance. Yes, you know, increasing the amount of assurance and governance around our services to make sure we're providing safe services, and always getting huge amounts of requests to do things at very short notice. That will never go away. So we do have those challenges all the time, but what hasn't changed for me is the people I work with. So the people that are providing the services which I manage are absolutely at the cornerstone of providing the great care we do. I've been really fortunate in my career to have some really good people working for me, and that really does give me, you know, heartens me in the fact that going forward into the future, you know, we will still provide great services for this hospital.
That's great. Thank you very much, and thank you for joining me today, and truly fascinating just about some of those facts and figures, which I will now go around and tell everybody. And thank you to your teams, because they are quite exceptional. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Anne.
So this year we have seen the 75th birthday of the NHS, which started in the 5th of July 1948. I don't like to think of just how long I've been in the NHS, but the NHS was still quite young when I first joined. And I think all of us have seen such a huge number of changes across the NHS in that time. There are some things that always stay the same, and that's about the people and the fact that we are compassionate, caring, and of course we've got the most incredible skills and clinical skills and innovation to support our patients. So at Derriford we had a fantastic day, mostly with cake and tea and celebrating, and I had a great time on level 6 with Marion, who has been with Derriford or Plymouth NHS for over 51 years. We've actually got lots of staff who've been 40 years or more providing great services to our patients and community. So we had a great day cutting up 3 huge cakes and talking to patients, visitors and colleagues about their memories of the NHS and why they love the NHS. So at the same time there was a tremendous gathering up in London for Westminster Cathedral, where colleagues had been selected to go and represent the NHS, and I'm delighted to be joined by 3 colleagues today. So we've got Judy Frame, who's the matron for critical care. We've got Jim, who is the chair of our patient council, and we've got Roisin, who has been selected as one of the 75 nursing time individuals who have made the greatest contribution to the NHS. And we'll say a little bit about that in a moment, Roisin, but huge congratulations. So maybe if we just talk a little bit about your celebration for 75th. Tell me where you went, what you did, and what were you celebrating?
So we were very fortunate to be nominated, very proud to be part of a party of 5 who went up to represent Derriford at the Westminster Abbey 75th service. A very early start because of the train strikes. So we were meeting in the concourse at around 5:15, and we were joined by Callum, who's the Cancer Services Manager, one of our volunteers, Jacqueline, and Louise Shalders from the transformational team. I think we all knew each other a little bit, but hadn't formally met as a group, and we just had the most stupendous day, really, incredibly proud. There was a little note to go in uniform, but I thought a uniform all the way from Plymouth at 4 o'clock in the morning start was perhaps a little too much. But on the tube, we all put on our name badges, queued up with everybody else, and just delighted to see the variety of staff that were there representing the NHS. And, you know, we were in a queue to join a queue to join a queue. Finally got in, chose our seats, and it was just amazing. I think our seat position, we were really lucky, weren't we, Jim? We sort of chose not to go too far into the nave to be at the back. We sort of were towards the door. Opposite May Parsons, who was the first nurse to administer a vaccine during COVID, and she very proudly carried the George Cross through the church as part of the procession.
Oh, wow.
And I think my abiding memory is that, but also we were lucky enough from our position, the choir and the procession stood at the back of the church, and the first, and you'll know better than I what it's called, Jim, the first tribute that they sang, the first anthem, we were right by. And I think you watch these services on the television and think the whole church is full of noise, but of course it isn't, because it's muffled within the main nave and cloister. So we were able to hear it, but not in its, you know, great anthem. But the choir were next to us, and it just really shook to the core, really.
The quality of the choir when you're close to them is just exceptional, isn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Stunning.
Yeah, really. It was funny because there were lots of famous TV doctors, weren't there?
There were
I don't watch a lot of TV doctors during the day, but Louise was very excited about it.
Chris Whitty went past us.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
You managed to get a picture of his head.
I did.
Yeah, and I think as well, just the appreciation of the party were there. Obviously, the Duke of Edinburgh and Sophie were there, and it took them a good half hour to get out of the church, didn't it? Because they stopped to talk to so many members of the congregation, and everybody else was behind them, so had to stop. And I'm sure they would have done. But you know, you just really felt the whole sort of great and the good who were there just wanted to meet us as NHS professionals, and it was amazing.
It was a genuine celebration, wasn't it? And I think that came across very strongly.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds an amazing day, and certainly when I've been talking to people who've been there, they just said it would stay with them for forever. So Jim, tell me a little bit, because you're also a volunteer here, so just tell me a little bit about what you think being a volunteer brings to hospitals like ours, and what does it give you back?
Well, it was interesting because at the Abbey, the volunteers were mentioned in line with, you know, the professionals like yourselves, which was, well, it was very touching to feel that you actually did feel very much part of the team, and I think that made a big difference. I think, like all volunteers, what we feel is we're trying to give back to the NHS. We owe the NHS. You know, I was brought up with the NHS at my age. You know, it would only just been in its infancy when I was born. So what we're doing is we're trying to pay it back because we believe in it. So what do we get out of it? Well, we get basically the satisfaction of knowing that we're trying to help and we're trying to contribute and support the professionals who are around us.
Oh, absolutely. And we benefit so much from the volunteers that we've got as well, because they've all often had lived experiences. They really bring a different contribution, and we love the fact that they're our own Orange Army. I think we're now up to probably about 350 volunteers now, and we had the annual celebration of our volunteer service, which was just absolutely lovely. And again, long service. We had a couple of people there who'd served over 40 years, as we had last year. And what I thought was lovely is just the range of ages that we've got now and diversity around volunteers, and we're all the better for it. So that's brilliant. And your favourite memory from London?
Well, it's interesting because I'm a practicing Christian, and so I've been to Westminster Abbey, but I'd never been to a service at Westminster Abbey, and it was described as ecumenical, but in fact, you know, if you have an Anglican roots as I do, you recognise the service very clearly, very strongly, and I found that probably something that was sort of I wasn't expecting. And that I found very moving indeed. To know that I've actually been to a service at Westminster Abbey is quite something.
Lovely, and thank you both and your colleagues who went with you for representing Derriford as well as you did. So Roisin, moving on to you. So I think you started your career in 1990?
Well, here in 1990, but I actually have been a nurse for 45 years. I started in 1978.
Wow.
In Dublin, and paediatric, and then did general nursing. I worked in the Middle East, but I landed into my home, if you like, in 1990 in neonatal nursing, which was fantastic, and I feel really strongly, as you know, every chance, and I was absolutely thrilled to be named as one of the 75 nurses that have made a difference to my specialty. And talking about volunteers as well, we rely heavily on our lovely parents, you know, because we look after the sickest and smallest babies from Devon and Cornwall, and our parents are truly, you know, spectacular, and I'm always humbled by their wanting to give back, and they're fantastic. So I feel very privileged to have been recognised, because it raises the profile of neonatal nursing. It's quite niche, and also the neonate, because if we get that part of nursing right and medicine right, the long-term benefits for the family, the baby, the family, and fiscally for the NHS is just something. So yes, I was really delighted.
Yeah, and so that's just 75 people, nurses in the whole country that have been identified, and you have been one of them, which is incredible. Now, I know you've got a very special award just a week ago, so tell me a little bit about that.
I feel quite uncomfortable with me getting awards, because, you know, we have a whole team, and I think the babies and families need the awards, but I was invited to meet Dame Ruth May, our Chief Nursing Officer for the country, last Thursday, and I was delighted to be invited to meet her. I have met her before because I'm a Florence Nightingale Scholar, and so is she, and I have been to Westminster Abbey as well and carried the lamp. Yes, I did. Wonderful. When I was the Florence Scholar, so and that was a wonderful opportunity for me, and she said the same for her as a nurse. Anyway, I was invited down, and then she awarded me the Gold Chief Nursing Officer Award, which I was absolutely overwhelmed by. I don't feel worthy at all, if I'm honest, but she chewed me out of that. She said that was incorrect. But I feel very privileged to have got that award.
And very well deserved. Well, I mean, they don't get given out very often, do they?
I didn't realise that.
No. So it's a real achievement, which is fantastic. So when you think about NHS 75, what's your key memory? What's something that you will sort of take with you from that day of celebration?
I just think it's fantastic that neonatal nursing is being seen in the 75-year celebrations, you know, and I came from Ireland, and we don't have an NHS, and when I joined the NHS in the UK, I was overwhelmed by the NHS, and I still feel overwhelmed by what we get from the NHS. And 75 years on, for my specialty, we have got a lot. You know, we've got more and more. And so from the actual event, I went to London as well, and to the Nursing Times event. And it was really nice to meet other nurses there, which was really nice. And we chatted, and I'm always taking every opportunity to talk about extreme preterm babies and newborn babies. And And that was a really nice event to wander around as well in London, because having had COVID for so long, I didn't mind the early start and a trip to London. So I just think there's such a great, and walking around the Derriford and even through the car park, there's such a celebration of the 75 that, and somebody like yourself, you know, having been in the NHS for a long time and from the inception, it's fantastic that it's still going, and I feel very privileged to have worked in the NHS and still working in the NHS.
Lovely. So thank you for sharing your memories. Thank you for representing us so well up in London, and here's to the next 75 years. Thank you, Judy, Jim and Roisin.
Thank you.
Thank you.